What if I told you a wealthy millionaire once married a poor overweight woman is nothing more than a cruel bet, but what followed left him shocked, broken, and transformed forever? This is not just a story about love, betrayal, and redemption, it's a lesson that could change the way you see people, and maybe even yourself. Ethan Cole was a man who seemingly had everything. At just 32, he was already a self-made millionaire. Handsome, tall, charming, and with a reputation for being ruthless in business, he was admired by some and feared by others. But beneath his polished smile, Ethan was arrogant, careless, and often cruel. He lived for attention, for showing off his wealth, and for proving that no one could outshine him. One night, at an exclusive party filled with champagne, loud laughter, and shallow conversation, Ethan's friends dared him into a game of humiliation. "You always win at everything, Ethan," one of them sneered. "But do you have the guts to marry someone totally opposite of you? Someone no one would expect?" Another chimed in, "Yeah, I bet you can't last a year married to a poor, fat woman. Bet you'd run in weeks." Ethan, fueled by pride and an ego that refused to back down, smirked and raised his glass. "Deal," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "I'll marry whoever you pick, and I'll show you I can turn any situation into my victory." Days later, they brought her Claire. Claire was nothing like the glamorous models Ethan was used to parading around. She was short, overweight, and wore cheap clothes that had seen better days. She worked at a small bakery, struggling to make ends meet while caring for her ill mother. Her eyes, though, held a quiet strength, though most never noticed because they only looked at her body. She had never imagined herself standing in a millionaire's mansion, let alone being offered marriage. At first, she thought it was some kind of joke, but Ethan charmed her. He played the role perfectly, pretending to care, pretending to see beauty in her. Claire, vulnerable and tired of being overlooked, let her guard down. Against her instincts, she agreed. After all, maybe fate was finally giving her something good. The wedding was grand, the whispers filled the air. People mocked her behind her back, and even some to her face. Claire smiled through the humiliation, holding onto Ethan's hand, believing his act. She thought love had finally found her, but Ethan treated it as a show. At home, he was distant, often cruel, making sarcastic comments about her weight, her lack of sophistication, her struggles. He thought it was all harmless fun, a way to pass the year, win the bet, and return to his old life. Yet, something unexpected began to happen. While Ethan spent his nights out with friends, Claire stayed up caring for his sick father, whom Ethan had nearly abandoned. She cooked meals, she listened, she cleaned, and she smiled even when treated poorly. She gave kindness to a man who had never known it from his own son. Slowly, Ethan's father grew to love Claire deeply, calling her the daughter he'd never had. And then one night, Ethan came home drunk and found Claire asleep at the kitchen table, her hands covered in flour from baking bread for his business staff. Something inside him cracked. For the first time, he really looked at her, not at her body, not at her clothes, but at the sacrifice, the patience, the love she gave so freely without asking for anything in return. He tried to shake it off, but the guilt kept gnawing at him. As weeks turned into months, Ethan began noticing things he had ignored before. The way Claire encouraged the house staff with small words of kindness. The way she took care of his father without complaint. The way her laughter, genuine and warm, filled the empty mansion in a way money never could. But just as Ethan was starting to change, Claire discovered the truth. One evening, she overheard Ethan's friends mocking her, bragging about the bet. Her world shattered. Every tender moment, every smile, every word suddenly felt like poison. She confronted him, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling with both anger and heartbreak. "Was I just entertainment to you? A joke for your rich friends?" Ethan stood there, speechless. For the first time in his life, he had no clever reply, no defense. He tried to explain that things had changed, that he was beginning to see her differently, but Claire wouldn't hear it. She packed her things and left, her heart broken into pieces, returning to her small bakery and her quiet life. For the first time, Ethan felt true emptiness. The mansion felt cold, his riches meaningless, his so-called friends shallow. His father refused to even look at him, calling him a fool who didn't deserve Claire. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan realized he had fallen in love, not the superficial love he used to chase, but the kind that humbles a man, the kind that transforms him. Determined to change, Ethan cut ties with his toxic friends. He started showing up at the bakery, not in suits or luxury cars, but humbly, as a man desperate for forgiveness. He worked alongside Claire, cleaning floors, baking bread, learning patience. At first, she ignored him. Then, slowly, she saw the sincerity in his actions. Months later, Ethan did something that shocked everyone. He sold one of his companies and used the money to open a charity foundation for single mothers and women struggling with body image and poverty, dedicating it in Claire's name. When the press asked why, he simply said, "Because she taught me what real beauty is. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving I was wrong." It wasn't easy. Forgiveness took time. But eventually, Claire saw that Ethan wasn't the same arrogant man she had married. He had been broken, humbled, reshaped by love and regret, and this time, when Ethan asked her to be his wife, not for a bet, not for a show, but out of love, Claire said yes. Their story became an inspiration, a reminder that love is not about appearance, wealth, or status. It's about kindness, respect, and the courage to change. Final note to viewers, closing message. So remember this: never judge someone's worth by how they look or what they own. True beauty comes from the heart, and the greatest wealth is found in love, forgiveness, and kindness.